First contact's mockery. The starlit expanse of Jupiter's orbit blazed with unprecedented activity as humanity witnessed its first contact with an advanced civilization. The Aetherian vessel hung in space like a crystalline dagger, its bioorganic hull pulsing with colors that hadn't yet been named by human eyes. Dr. Elena Santos, Earth's chief xenolinguist, stood aboard the International Space Station's newly constructed First Contact module, her heart thundering in her chest as she prepared for humanity's debut on the galactic stage. Your species has achieved spaceflight, rather recently, the Aetherian ambassador, Valizen, observed through the quantum translator. His iridescent eyes shifted through spectrum of colors, settling on a dismissive shade of amber. How quaint that you still rely on chemical propulsion. Elena maintained her diplomatic composure, though she felt the sting of his words. Behind her, Admiral James Chen of the United Earth Space Command clenched his jaw, but remained silent. They both knew what was at stake. Humanity's first impression on an advanced civilization could determine their species' future. We're eager to learn and grow, Elena responded carefully. Humanity has always been adaptable. Valezen's crystalline appendages shimmered as he laughed, a sound like wind chimes in a hurricane. Adaptable. Your most advanced vessels would be considered primitive recreational craft in our society. Even your artificial intelligence systems are laughably basic. The meeting continued for hours, each moment feeling like another wound to human pride. The Aetherians made no attempt to hide their disdain for Earth's technology, culture, or achievements. What had started as a moment of hope for humanity quickly devolved into a diplomatic humiliation. But deep beneath the surface of Olympus Mons on Mars, something extraordinary was happening. In a facility unknown even to most of Earth's governments, Dr. Samira Patel stared at her quantum computer's display with trembling hands. The signal she had detected was impossible. It couldn't exist according to any known laws of physics. Run it again, she commanded her eye assistant. Full spectrum analysis. The results remained the same. Somewhere in the vast darkness between the Orion Arm and the galactic core, something was calling out. Not to the Aetherians, not to any of the numerous spacefaring races they had smugly mentioned during the first contact meeting. The signal was specifically coded to human brainwave patterns. Back on the ISS, Valizen was concluding his assessment of Earth's position in the galactic community. We will, of course, establish an outpost in your solar system. For your own protection, you understand. Your species clearly needs guidance to avoid unfortunate accidents as you play with technologies beyond your comprehension. Admiral Chen stepped forward, his patience finally wearing thin. With all due respect, Ambassador, Earth is a sovereign world. Sovereign. Valizen's color shifted to an amused ultraviolet. You barely understand the principles of faster-than-light travel. Your weapons systems are centuries behind the galactic standard. What sovereignty could you possibly maintain? As if to emphasize his point, 3 more Aetherian vessels shimmered into existence around Earth's orbit, each one larger than any human spacecraft ever constructed. Their presence was a clear message. Resistance wasn't just futile, it was laughable. But on Mars, Dr. Patel was making a discovery that would change everything. The signal wasn't just a message, it was a gift. Hidden within its quantum-encrypted layers were designs for technology that defied imagination. Technology that seemed specifically engineered for human minds to understand and human hands to build. She sent a heavily encrypted message to her superior, Director Zhang of the Prometheus Initiative. Project Olympus is no longer theoretical. We have the key. The response came back almost immediately. Implement immediately. Full authorization. They must not know. As the Aetherians continued their diplomatic occupation of Earth's solar system over the following weeks, they remained unaware of the activity beneath Mars' surface. They didn't notice the quantum fluctuations that their sensors dismissed as background radiation. They paid no attention to the subtle changes in human communication patterns or the way certain resources were being quietly redirected. Why would they? To them, Humans were simply another primitive species to be guided, controlled, and eventually absorbed into their empire. They had seen it all before, countless times across countless worlds. But they had never encountered humanity before. In her hidden facility, Dr. Petal looked at the first prototype quantum core, its impossible geometry, somehow both there and not there, existing in multiple dimensions simultaneously. "How long can we keep this hidden?" she asked Director Zhang during their secured quantum call. "Long enough," he replied, his holographic image flickering with encryption. "The Aetherians are so convinced of their superiority, they don't even bother to look closely anymore. Their arrogance is our advantage." The signal continued to pulse from deep space, sending more data, more designs, more impossible science that seemed perfectly tailored for human minds to grasp. And with each passing day, beneath the surface of Mars, humanity's future took shape in secret. Vale Zen and his fellow Aetherians continued their diplomatic meetings, continued their subtle mockery of human achievement, continued their plans for gradually absorbing Earth into their empire. They never questioned why the humans accepted their presence with such apparent resignation. After all, they had seen this pattern play out 1,000 times before on 1,000 other worlds. But they had never seen what was coming next. In the depths of Olympus Mons, Dr. Patil activated the quantum core for the first time. For a brief moment, space itself seemed to hold its breath. And in that moment, humanity took its first real step into the galaxy, not as primitive newcomers to be pitied and controlled, but as something entirely new. The game was about to change, and the Aetherians didn't even know they were players. The silent preparation. 1 year after first contact, Earth appeared to be a model of compliance. Aetherian ships gracefully patrolled the solar system, their crystalline hulls catching sunlight like massive prisms. On the surface, humanity seemed to have accepted its role as a protectorate species, dutifully attending technological guidance sessions and submitting to regular inspections of their space facilities. Deep within the asteroid belt, Velzen's flagship transmitted another satisfied report to the Aetherian High Command. "The humans continue to progress at an acceptable pace," he dictated, his form shifting through pleased shades of blue-green. "They show appropriate gratitude for our guidance, though their comprehension remains limited." If Val Zen had bothered to look closer, he might have noticed that something was off about the numbers. Resources that should have been going to approved development projects seemed to vanish in transit. Power consumption across human colonies fluctuated in patterns that made no mathematical sense. But why would he look closer? The humans were exactly where they should be: grateful, submissive, and most importantly, contained. Meanwhile, beneath the rusty surface of Mars, Dr. Samira Patel stood in a chamber that shouldn't have been possible. The quantum engineering facility stretched for kilometers through dimensionally folded space, thousands of engineers and scientists working on projects that would have made the Aetherians' crystalline forms shatter in shock. "The latest test results are beyond our most optimistic projections," she reported to the holographic assembly of Earth's unified leadership. "The quantum cores aren't just stable, they're evolving. It's as if the technology is adapting itself to work specifically with human consciousness." Director Zhang's hologram nodded thoughtfully. "And the Olympus Protocol?" "Ready for final implementation," Admiral Chen's hologram interjected. "The fleet is nearly complete. Every ship equipped with quantum cores that the Aetherians can't even detect, let alone comprehend." The mysterious signal from deep space had provided more than just technology. It had given humanity a roadmap to capabilities that bypassed centuries of conventional development. While the Aetherians taught basic warp theory to human scientists in condescending lectures, humanity secretly mastered principles of quantum engineering that made traditional faster-than-light travel look like steam engines. In the Jupiter shipyards, Aetherian overseers watched humans carefully construct simple vessels under their guidance. They never noticed that these same humans would disappear into supposedly uninhabitable areas of Europa and Ganymede, working on something far more ambitious. The true fleet took shape in spaces that existed between conventional dimensions, assembled by workers using quantum-enhanced capabilities that even they didn't fully understand. Dr. Elena Santos, still serving as Earth's chief xenolinguist, played her part perfectly. During another diplomatic session, she struggled adorably with basic Etherian scientific concepts, watching Velzen's colors shift to that familiar patronizing amber. "We are so fortunate to have your guidance," she said, hiding her knowledge that humanity had already far surpassed Etherian understanding of quantum linguistics. The signal continued its transmission, growing stronger and more complex. Dr. Patel's team had decoded only a fraction of its contents, but what they found was staggering. The unknown benefactors hadn't just given humanity advanced technology. They had provided designs specifically engineered to work with human biology and psychology in ways the Etherians could never replicate. "There's something almost familiar about the signal structure," Dr. Patel confided to Director Zhang during a secure quantum communication. "It's as if whoever sent it knows us intimately, knows exactly how human minds work." "Focus on implementation," Zhang replied, though his expression suggested he shared her curiosity. "The Etherians are growing bolder in their protection of other systems. We need to be ready before they decide Earth needs more direct supervision." The warning was timely. Reports filtered in through hidden channels about other young civilizations facing Etherian guidance. Some accepted their role as protectorates. Others resisted and quickly discovered the steel fist within the crystalline glove. The Etherian Empire's pattern was clear: absorb or subjugate, all while maintaining their facade of benevolent superiority. But humanity's pattern was about to break their mold entirely. In a secure facility beneath the Pacific Ocean, Admiral Chen reviewed the latest fleet updates with his staff. The numbers were staggering. Hundreds of ships that existed in quantum superposition, invisible to conventional detection methods. Each vessel incorporated technology that seemed to anticipate human needs before they arose, interfaces that linked directly with human consciousness in ways that made neural links look primitive. "Are we certain they can't detect any of this?" one of his admirals asked, gesturing at the holographic fleet display. Chen's smile was grim. "They can't detect what their sensors say is impossible. Their arrogance is our greatest advantage. They stopped looking for threats from us months ago." The quantum cores pulsed with impossible energy, each one a testament to humanity's ability to adapt and innovate. The mysterious signal had provided the foundation, but human engineers and scientists had taken those principles and run with them, creating applications that even their unknown benefactors might not have anticipated. Velzen's regular reports continued to paint a picture of a compliant protectorate species, slowly learning its place in the galaxy. The Etherian Empire continued its expansion, confident in its technological superiority, and humanity continued its silent preparation, building something that would shatter the Empire's fundamental assumptions about the nature of power in the galaxy. The stage was set. The pieces were in place. All that remained was the moment to reveal that humanity had never been playing the game the Etherians thought they were playing. That moment was coming sooner than anyone suspected. The turning point. The Etherian ultimatum arrived with the rising of Earth's sun. Velzen's massive flagship, now accompanied by a fleet of 50 crystalline warships, dominated the view from every telescope and observation post on the planet. His message was broadcast simultaneously in every human language, his tone dripping with rehearsed benevolence. In light of concerning developments in neighboring sectors, the Etherian Empire has determined that Earth requires more direct protection, he announced, his form cycling through authoritative shades of deep purple. "We will be establishing permanent command centers in all major population centers. This is, of course, for your own safety." In the Olympus facility on Mars, Dr. Samira Patel watched the transmission with Director Zhang and Admiral Chen. The quantum cores hummed around them, their impossible geometries casting shadows that moved in ways that light shouldn't allow. "They're finally making their move," Chen said, his voice steady. "Exactly as predicted." Zhang nodded, his eyes on the tactical displays showing Aetherian ships moving into position around Earth. They're deploying exactly as the quantum simulations suggested they would. Arrogance makes them predictable. Dr. Patel's fingers danced across her quantum interface, the neural link allowing her to process information at speeds that would have seemed impossible just 2 years ago. The fleet is ready. All systems are operating beyond projected parameters. On the primary broadcast channel, Elena Santos delivered Earth's official response to the Aetherian ultimatum. Her voice trembled perfectly, her words carefully chosen to convey exactly the right amount of fear and submission. We request time to prepare our facilities for your arrival. 24 hours to make proper arrangements. Vale Zen's colors shifted to that familiar, patronizing amber. Granted. Though I must say, your species' constant need for delay is rather tiresome. Perhaps under more direct guidance, you'll learn to operate with proper efficiency. The transmission ended, and Elena allowed herself a small, fierce smile. 24 hours was 19 more than they needed. Beneath the surface of Mars, through quantum-folded space, and in facilities that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, humanity's real fleet waited. Not the simple ships that the Aetherians had been supervising, but vessels that represented an evolutionary leap in space warfare. Each one powered by quantum cores that didn't just defy Aetherian science. They operated on principles the Empire couldn't even detect. Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of the flagship Prometheus, marveling at how the neural interface felt like a natural extension of his consciousness. Around him, crew members merged with their stations, their trained minds working in concert with technology that had been specifically designed for human cognition. All ships report ready, his XO announced, the information flowing through the quantum network that connected the fleet. Quantum cores are synchronized. Drive systems are operating at 115% of theoretical capacity. Chen allowed himself a moment to appreciate the irony. The Aetherians had spent 2 years teaching humanity what they considered basic space warfare doctrine. They had never imagined that humans would take those lessons, combine them with the mysterious signals quantum technology, and create something entirely new. Begin Operation Revelation, Chen commanded. Across the solar system, reality seemed to hiccup. The quantum cores activated simultaneously, their impossible energy rippling through spacetime in ways that Aetherian sensors simply couldn't process. To their instruments, nothing was happening, but reality itself was about to disagree. Vale Zen was in the middle of discussing occupation protocols with his command staff when the first human ships appeared. Not dropped out of faster-than-light travel, not emerged from stealth, they simply phased into existence, occupying spaces that Aetherian physics said should be impossible. "What is this?" he demanded, his colors cycling rapidly through confused patterns. Where did they? More ships appeared. Dozens, hundreds, each one incorporating technology that was simultaneously familiar and impossible. The quantum cores pulsed with energy that seemed to bend space itself, creating defense fields that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. "Unknown vessels, you will stand down immediately." Vale Zen broadcast, his confident tone betrayed by the erratic shifting of his crystalline form. "This display of stolen technology will not be tolerated." Admiral Chen's response was broadcasted across all frequencies, his voice calm and assured. "Stolen? No, Ambassador Vale Zen. We didn't steal anything. We learned. We adapted. We evolved. Something your empire, for all its power, seems to have forgotten how to do." The human fleet moved with perfect coordination, their quantum-enhanced crews operating at levels that made traditional neural interfaces look primitive. They didn't just outmaneuver the Aetherian ships. They operated in ways that Aetherian tactical doctrine couldn't even process. "This is impossible." Vale Zen raged as his flagship's weapons fire passed harmlessly through quantum-shifted human vessels. "Your species was barely achieving spaceflight 2 years ago." "No," Chen replied, almost gentle in his correction. "That's simply what we allowed you to believe. Your empire has spent so long being superior that you've forgotten how to recognize true advancement. Your arrogance blinded you to our potential. The battle, if it could even be called that, was over in minutes. Aetherian weapons proved useless against defenses that operated on quantum principles their science couldn't understand. Human ships phased through their formation as if the crystalline warships were mere holograms, their own weapon systems bypassing Aetherian shields as if they didn't exist. Would you like to discuss new terms for our relationship? Chen asked the stunned Velizen, whose flagship now found itself surrounded by vessels that seemed to exist in violation of everything he understood about physics. Or would you prefer to report to your empire that you've completely lost control of this sector? The quantum cores pulsed steadily, their impossible energy a testament to humanity's leap beyond conventional technological progression. The mysterious signal continued its transmission, perhaps waiting to see what humanity would do with the power it had helped them unlock. Velizen's colors shifted to a shade that none of the human observers had ever seen before. It would later be classified in xenobiological documents as the Aetherian expression of absolute, fundamental shock. The galaxy was about to discover that humanity had never been the primitive species the Empire had assumed them to be. They had been something far more dangerous, a species with untapped potential, and the drive to exceed everyone's expectations, including, perhaps, their own. Tables turned. News of humanity's victory over Velizen's fleet spread through the galaxy like a shockwave. The Aetherian Empire's initial response was predictable. They dismissed the reports as exaggerations, claiming their commander had simply allowed the humans to demonstrate some stolen technology before containing the situation. But as more Aetherian fleets encountered Earth's quantum-enhanced ships, that fiction became impossible to maintain. In the Centauri sector, Dr. Elena Santos stood before the assembled representatives of 12 species that had been living under Aetherian protection. Her diplomatic skills were no longer focused on playing the role of an ignorant primitive. Now, she was offering something the galaxy hadn't seen in centuries: hope. "We understand your skepticism," she told the gathered aliens, their varied forms all showing signs of what xenobiologists had begun calling imperial fatigue. The Aetherians convinced everyone that technological progress could only happen on their terms, at their pace. "We're proof that they're wrong." The Meridian delegate, a being of pure energy contained within a crystalline matrix, pulsed with curiosity. "But how? Their scientific dominance has been absolute for centuries. How did you advance so quickly?" Elena shared a knowing look with Dr. Patel, who stood beside her. They had agreed to be selective with the truth. The mysterious signal remained humanity's closest held secret. "We approached technology differently," Patel explained. "Instead of following their established patterns, we explored principles they had dismissed as impossible." Meanwhile, across the galaxy, Admiral Chen led Earth's Third Fleet in what was becoming a systematic dismantling of Aetherian military dominance. The quantum cores had proven to be more than just power sources. They were gateways to understanding physics in ways the Empire had never imagined. Enemy fleet approaching through conventional FTL, his XO reported, the information flowing through their quantum-enhanced neural network. "Standard Imperial battle formation." Chen nodded, remembering how impressive those crystalline ships had once seemed. Now they looked like relics, beautiful but fundamentally limited by their creators' assumptions about what was possible. "Deploy in quantum shift pattern Delta. Let's show them something new." The human fleet seemed to fragment, each ship existing in multiple quantum states simultaneously. Aetherian weapons fire passed through space that both did and didn't contain Earth vessels. The Empire's tactical doctrine, unchanged for centuries, had no answer for ships that could operate beyond conventional physical laws. But humanity's revolution wasn't just military. Across occupied worlds, knowledge began to spread. The quantum principles that humans had mastered weren't exclusive to their biology. They had already begun teaching other species how to adapt the technology to their own unique forms of consciousness. The Aetherian Empire's response grew increasingly desperate. Their attacks became more aggressive, their diplomatic threats more extreme. But each defeat, each failed attempt to contain humanity's influence, only served to expose the hollowness behind their supposed superiority. In a secure quantum conference, Earth's leadership discussed the rapidly evolving situation. Director Zhang's hologram showed signs of concern despite their continued successes. The Empire is losing control of its core systems. Our intelligence suggests their society is fracturing under the strain of repeated defeats. Good, Admiral Chen replied firmly. Their entire civilization is built on the assumption of their absolute superiority. Take that away, and their internal contradictions become impossible to ignore. Dr. Patel's hologram nodded in agreement, but her expression was thoughtful. The quantum signal has changed. It's becoming more focused, more deliberate. I think whoever sent it is paying very close attention to how we're using their gift. The signal had indeed evolved. Its transmission now carried new information, not just technological insights, but what appeared to be coordinates, locations of ancient quantum artifacts scattered throughout the galaxy, hidden in places the Aetherians had dismissed as worthless centuries ago. On a dozen worlds, former Imperial subjects began discovering their own paths to quantum engineering. Each species approached the principles differently, their unique forms of consciousness leading to innovations that even humanity hadn't considered. The galaxy was awakening from centuries of enforced technological stagnation. The Aetherian Empire's response to this cascade of revelations was to launch what they called a purification crusade. A massive fleet, representing nearly a third of their remaining military strength, emerged from FTL near Earth's quantum defense perimeter. Admiral Chen watched their approach from the bridge of the Prometheus, his enhanced consciousness already plotting multiple quantum-shifted responses. They never learn, do they? Still thinking in terms of overwhelming force, as if quantity could overcome their fundamental misunderstanding of what they're facing. The battle that followed would be studied for centuries to come, but not for its violence. Instead, it became known as the moment when the galaxy's balance of power shifted permanently. Human ships, supported by vessels from newly liberated worlds, demonstrated the full potential of quantum warfare. The Imperial fleet found itself fighting an enemy that seemed to exist in multiple realities simultaneously, using weapons that bypassed their defenses as if they weren't even there. Your empire has a choice. Chen transmitted to the Aetherian command ship as their fleet fell into disarray. Continue trying to maintain a superiority that no longer exists, or join us in exploring what's actually possible when we stop limiting ourselves to what we think we know. Dr. Santos, watching the battle's aftermath from her diplomatic post, couldn't help but appreciate the irony. The Aetherians had arrived on Earth expecting to find another primitive species to guide and control. Instead, they had become a cautionary tale about the dangers of assuming that technological progress could only happen in ways they understood. The quantum cores pulsed with energy that defied conventional physics, their impossible geometries a constant reminder that the universe was far stranger and more wonderful than anyone had imagined. And somewhere in the depths of space, the mysterious signal continued its transmission, perhaps waiting to see what humanity and their new allies would discover next. The galaxy was changing, awakening to new possibilities, and humanity, once dismissed as primitives barely worth noticing, was leading the way into a future that even the signal's unknown senders might not have anticipated. A new dawn. The Aetherian Imperial Palace on Crystallis Prime had stood unchanged for millennia. Its geometric perfection, a testament to their supposed mastery of the physical universe. Now, its crystalline spires reflected the light of ships that shouldn't exist, as representatives from across the galaxy gathered for a moment that would reshape civilization itself. Dr. Elena Santos stood beside Admiral Chen and Dr. Patel in the Grand Assembly Chamber, watching as species that had once cowered under Aetherian dominion now stood as equals. The quantum cores that powered their ships and cities pulsed in harmony, each civilization having adapted the technology to match their unique forms of consciousness. Quite a different scene from our first contact. Chen mused, remembering Vale Zhen's patronizing tone from just 3 years ago. The former ambassador was present too, his crystalline form now shifting through colors that indicated a profound reassessment of everything he had once believed. The Aetherian High Council had finally requested peace talks after their last desperate offensive ended in a defeat so total that even their most ardent supremacists couldn't ignore it. But this wasn't to be a simple peace treaty. It was something far more fundamental. "The signal is stronger than ever," Dr. Patel whispered, her quantum-enhanced senses detecting patterns that normal human perception couldn't grasp. "It's almost as if it's anticipating something." The mysterious transmission that had started everything had indeed grown more complex. Its quantum-encrypted layers now contained not just technological insights, but what appeared to be fragments of a story about cycles of discovery, stagnation, and renewal that stretched back millions of years. The Aetherian High Speaker approached the central podium, their form shifting through formal patterns that their species had used to denote authority for centuries. But there was something different in their bearing now, a humility that would have been unthinkable 3 years ago. "For too long," they began, their words translated simultaneously for all present, "we believed that our understanding of the universe was complete. We mistook our technological plateau for the peak of possible achievement. In doing so, we became not guardians of progress, as we claimed, but its greatest obstacle." Dr. Santos stepped forward to take her place at the podium, her diplomatic skills now focused on shaping what would come next. "Today, we're not here to simply end a conflict," she announced. "We're here to begin something new. A collaborative approach to understanding the universe and our place in it." The quantum cores throughout the chamber pulsed in sync, their impossible energies a testament to how far understanding had advanced in such a short time. Representatives from 24 species, each with their own unique adaptations of quantum technology, shared knowing looks. They had all seen what was possible when artificial limitations were cast aside. "The quantum concordat," Santos continued, unveiling the agreement that would reshape galactic civilization, "is not about replacing one power structure with another. It's about creating a framework for shared discovery and growth." The principles were revolutionary yet simple: open exchange of scientific knowledge, respect for diverse approaches to technological development, and safeguards against any one species or group imposing their limitations on others. The Aetherian Empire would be transformed into something new, a participant in galactic progress rather than its self-appointed controller. As the delegates discussed and refined the agreement, Dr. Patel found herself drawn to a subtle pattern in the quantum background radiation. The mysterious signal was changing again, its transmission taking on an almost musical quality that resonated with the quantum cores. "I don't think we were randomly chosen," she confided to Director Zhang's quantum projected form. "The signal, I'm beginning to think it's not just technology. It's a test, or maybe a lesson." Zhang nodded thoughtfully. "A lesson about the dangers of assuming we know everything, about the importance of remaining open to new possibilities." "More than that," Hadel replied, her enhanced consciousness processing patterns within patterns. "I think we're part of something bigger, a cycle of awakening that's happened before and will happen again." The evidence was there in the signal's deepest layers, hints of previous civilizations that had faced similar moments of transformation. The Aetherians weren't the first to stagnate at the height of their power, and humanity wasn't the first to break through such stagnation. But perhaps this time, with the quantum concordat, the cycle could be different. Admiral Chen, watching the proceedings from his position near the chamber's quantum security field, allowed himself a small smile. 3 years ago, they thought we were primitives barely worth noticing. Now look at us, teaching the teachers about what's really possible. The final signing of the concordat was marked by a phenomenon that none of the gathered species could fully explain. The quantum cores throughout known space pulsed in perfect harmony, creating a moment of synchronized consciousness that crossed the barriers between species. In that instant, each participant glimpsed the true scope of what they were beginning, Not just a new political arrangement, but a fundamental shift in how sentient life approached the mysteries of existence. Velzen, who had requested to witness the ceremony, approached Dr. Santos after the signing. His colors shifted through patterns that the xenolinguists were still working to fully understand, but his message was clear enough. "We thought we were elevating ourselves above the galaxy," he said, his tone carrying the weight of centuries of misconception. "Instead, we were isolating ourselves from its true wonders." The mysterious signal continued its transmission, but its nature had changed. It no longer felt like a gift or a test, but like a conversation. Whatever intelligence had sent it seemed satisfied with how its message had been received and adapted. The quantum principles it had introduced had been transformed by human innovation and cooperation with other species into something perhaps even its senders hadn't anticipated. As the gathered representatives departed for their respective worlds, each ship powered by quantum cores that defied their former masters' understanding of physics, humanity stood at the center of a transformed galaxy. They had done more than prove themselves to their would-be overlords. They had shown that true advancement comes not from assuming superiority, but from remaining open to infinite possibilities. The universe, they had learned, was far stranger and more wonderful than anyone had imagined. And this, perhaps, was just the beginning.